welcome to the Books and Music Review Show. Make sure my mic is on. Okay, welcome to the Books and Music Review Show. And today we have a great show. Oh my goodness, it sounded like Ed Sullivan there for a minute. A show about, I forget the initials, but something about tobacco-free Staten Island. Here we go with Ashley and Gabriel.
Good afternoon, Staten Island. My name is Gabriel Acevedo, and I am part of Tobacco-Free Staten Island.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ashley Zanata, and I am the Community Engagement Manager for Tobacco Free Staten Island, a program housed at the Jewish Community Center. So I guess today we are here to talk about tobacco and vaping, and it's so prevalent, especially here on Staten Island, across the city and in the entire state. So since you are part of the biggest piece, our youth component of Tobacco Free Staten Island, what is that? Let's tell everybody what we do.
Well, what we have done is that we promote four things regarding the tobacco industry, and that is tobacco-free outdoors, tobacco and multi-unit housing, tobacco-free media, and point of sale. And what we're trying to do is to make sure the youth are well aware about the tobacco schemes of promoting their products to the youth, and more specifically in the recent years, the presence of e-cigarettes, not only in just the public and all of these, but also in schools.
So you know what? Let's just start with some facts. Let's get the audience facts so they know what we're talking about. So I'm going to read two things for everyone. Cigarette smoking among high school youth declined by 82% between 2000 and 2018. So that's youth. Write that in there. We do know that there has been substantial work done to really decrease this. So on the other side of things, we know e-cigarettes we have not seen the same rates when it comes down to e-cigarettes. So in contrast, use of e-cigarettes among high school youth continues to rise. Between 2014 and 2018, the rate increased fully 160%, going from 10.5% to 27.4%. So e-cigarettes are the most commonly used product among our young people. So let's really dive into that. So we've done so much work. When it comes down to tobacco, point of sale, we've really addressed marketing. We've addressed policies that help to decrease exposure to secondhand smoke. But yet it seems there's so much more work that needs to be done. So,
Okay, 1 second.
Yes.
I need you to slow down a little bit.
Okay.
Just go a little bit slower. We're still on air. We're still taping.
Got it.
But I want to hear everything, and it's going kind of quickly.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So we do know that through all of this, through the statistics, there is so much work that has yet to be done with e-cigarettes. So I'm really curious, and I want everyone that's watching to understand, why is this? And why do you think you're part of that big generation that seems to be captivated by these products?
Well, I think it's because the reason cigarette smoking went down, we look at that, and we've seen how well we've promoted the causes and effects of cigarettes back from the 1980s to above, by the lung cancer, through all the terrible effects that were made completely obvious. And of course, through that, there was people who wanted to get out of smoking, and that introduced us to many forms of ways to quit smoking. And e-cigarettes decided to cash in on this and decided to say, this is a good product to end smoking and your habits, and therefore e-cigarettes were made. But little did they know that it's not at all helpful. It has the same things wrapped up, but instead of paper, it's just in a plastic. It still has the toxins and the nicotine and carcinogens. It's just that, unlike cigarettes, it's passed off as completely safe because of how modern it looks compared to cigarettes or cigars or any other drug-related product. What schools have done for tobacco and promoting anti-cigarette is phenomenal, but there still needs to be work done on e-cigarettes. It states here how it's frequent among high school youth. And we can trace it back to when it was cigarette was cool and, smoke cool, like the mascots like Camel Joe, and all the way it appeals to women, how it's supposed to be sexy.
Let's go back. Let's rewind a little bit. So the Master Settlement Agreement, that was this big settlement that pretty much provided millions of dollars to really combat what big tobacco did. So yes, big tobacco did target these vulnerable populations, specifically youth. So back in the 1920s, we know Virginia Slims came out, which was, they really capitalized on the whole suffrage movement. And through the years, through the decades, and you mentioned it before, we saw people like Joe Camel. We saw people like the Marlboro Man. So there was this culture that was set that really kind of said, oh, wait, if you want to be rebellious and be strong, smoke. obviously, Master Settlement Agreement really countered that, and in turn provided money to really kind of now retract those messages. However, it was really already distributed.
I actually wanted to bring up one word you put, rebellious. And when I think of rebellious, I think of many movements that have gone against the unfortunate things that happened in the past. And we've seen this with the pattern of tobacco. For example, during the civil rights movement, tobacco industries targeted African American youth as well as also African American adults to say that they're supporting them, when in reality they just wanted their money, as well as also the LGBT groups back in the 1980s. And now we fast forward to the 21st century, and they're not just targeting African Americans or LGBT. The biggest ones they have seemed to target now is people in impoverished areas and as well as teens in general. I wanted to bring this back high school. I can speak for teens who are in high school. When you go to the bathroom, there's definitely teens that smoke e-cigarettes there like it's nothing, or like a vape area. The reality is, vape or not, it's still harmful. And the reason why they have it is because they not only is it cool, but like they're quote unquote supporting them. When in reality, they just want their money.
Yeah. So, well, you know what? Let's think about this for a little bit. So, we know that these products, most of these products, if not all of these products, do contain nicotine. Nicotine harms the growing adolescent brain, which automatically, red flag. How do we now get that information out to other high schoolers, but other like parents? I think there's a big disconnect, and what we're seeing across the community, across the city, is people don't know what's in these products, and we also don't have all the information. So these products there's hundreds of companies, thousands of different flavors, and even more information that really kind of says, oh, there's this, or there may be that in this. But how do we know, or how do we get the information that we do know into the hands of parents, into the hands of teens?
That's a really valuable question. And the reason I say valuable is because we live in a society now where we have more than just the television or radio. Mm-hmm. We have Instagram, we have Facebook, we have YouTube. We have so many social media outputs that we can disperse our message to. That goes well for also the companies, e-cigarettes. However, that doesn't mean we can just surrender to them. We can promote even better by getting our knowledge and facts straight. And this was shown in an article I read in the New York Times, written by Sheila Kaplan. I must applaud her for her work, as she also detailed how e-cigarette companies are trying to use young scientists graduating from universities to help promote that they're safe. And another big fact is that they're under attack by the FDA. If they don't get any proof for support of their product by 2022, FDA will cut fundings, as what I've heard. And if that's the case, then that means they'll most likely cut rates and also. But you know what I think? We need to get to that date sooner, because the longer we wait, the more children's brains are going to be damaged for the future. If we want our youth to lead and destroy this whole e-cigarette conundrum, we have to make sure they're well functioning and not damaged by these.
So I think also too, and I completely agree with you, I think that we need to tap into these outlets and these large social media platforms. However, I'm also concerned that e-cigarette companies have done just that, and I would hate to see our efforts fall really by the wayside if we're not able to get them, we're not able to reach them. Now we're looking at a multi-billion-dollar industry. Mm-hmm. We're no longer looking at an industry that really kind of just formed, because it's been years now since they've hit the market. And they're in the hands of thousands of young people. It's 1 in 4 high school students. Mm-hmm. That's alarming. That's crazy. These rates are going higher than what we can control, and even higher than what we can get the information out. Mm-hmm. So how do you suppose we really do that? Do you believe that social media is an effective measure?
It is completely an effective measuring. That's how we advertise our products. That's how we able to buy like stuff like our shirts and clothes. We can easily do that. But there's one thing that we need. One thing that I have learned is that knowledge is power. Yes. And that if we get our information out and straight about e-cigarettes, and we're able to compare them to the cigarettes of the years past, we can prove to people just how dangerous they can easily be. If we can promote to their parents or who are young and that thought about smoking cigarettes, we prove to them that cigarettes was bad. Let's repeat it again, so that way we make sure that they don't have to suffer.
I have to ask you, did I have your names spelt right, both of you? I'm going to put them on the screen, and you
put
can
them on the screen, I'll tell you.
That's one?
Yes, that's my name.
Okay, and the other one?
That is correct.
Okay. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No,
Go
that's
ahead.
okay.
Go for it.
So, you know what, as we were discussing social media, I do want to bring something up. So the New York State Tobacco Control Program, something that you are a part of, will premiere a new digital campaign that educates parents and other adults about the risk of e-cigarette uses to youth. The campaign is supposed to really dispel the myths around e-cigarettes and how they are not necessarily a hazard-free alternative to combustible tobacco products. So it's built on 2 videos, and it will be released. So the purpose of this video is not only to dispel it, but also to get the information out to parents. Well, as a kid who's still in high school, what would you tell parents of your peers about these products?
It's simple. Make sure to know your data. A man told me once, I met him through a meeting, know your data. And what that means is that we need to make sure that the proper data is there. We need to make sure to get the info about how much e-cigarettes cost, because it is cheap. It's point of sale. They want to make sure they can easily get it out to the youth, just like they did years ago. We're seeing a lot of comparisons here. If we show that same similarities to parents, and a light will pick up in their head. And it's simple like that. You can easily see the comparisons just like that. We can also see, I'm looking at this page right here in the book, the many shapes and sizes it takes. It's no longer just a little cylinder with paper in it. It is now rectangular prisms with the cylinder, where like they have those things that charge with batteries. They have rectangular prisms that are without no cylinder. I'm trying to put like shapes in it because that's how they look. Yeah. And it doesn't matter because it has the same thing. It has the same thing, and that's nicotine and everything else, the whole kit and caboodle. And that's the whole idea, to make sure that we don't fall for their tricks. And that falls with that. We have to make sure, show all these pictures, show what they have. Because as far as I'm concerned, we might be small, but just as David defeated Goliath, we can defeat the big tobacco industries as well.
I love the passion. I really do. So I think that in talking about point of sale, and you alluded to it before, the trajectory of the way that these products are created is so different than what we've seen with combustible products. Mm-hmm. So we have products such as the Juul, which is the #1 electronic cigarette / vape product used by young people. So for those of you that may not know what this is, it literally looks like a flash drive. I do not have one to show you, but Google it and you can find it. Something apart from how, and there are dozens.
Well, wait a minute, I have to interject with this. That's almost like we're promoting the product. I wouldn't even say their name. You could say the most popular product. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't say any of the brand names.
Okay.
Just because, not because of anything, but why should we promote them? Because the kids are going to go,
Well, the reality is the kids are already looking at it. I think for the parents, they don't really know, which is the big, that's what we're seeing we're at the kind of local level. We're seeing parents don't even look at them because they think they're a USB. Yes.
Can I ask a question? And the only reason I'm asking a question is, let me make sure my mic's not on mute. Hold on.
Yes.
I'm going to ask a question, and I'll tell you the reason why I'm not asking to interrupt you, but I'm asking to make it the Books and Music Review Show, which is what we do. It's kind of, unrehearsed and things like that. But I have an honest question that I want to ask either one of you if you want to answer it. Why should children, because I have, grandchildren myself, why should children not smoke at all?
I can answer that.
Okay, go for it.
It's terrible. Smoking can destroy your life. Every time someone smokes, they lose years off their life. And even short-term consequences, such as the toxins in your brain. You get addicted to it, lung cancer, hairy tongue, which I forgot the scientific name, which is caused by tobacco, aging older than expected. There's so much that stems from that product that it's impossible to ignore. And that's why children shouldn't smoke.
And what about you? Why shouldn't children smoke?
So I truly believe that children should not smoke because I think that it makes them unable to have proper coping mechanisms. Okay. I think that there are far too many kids now who are glued to their phones. We really truly live in a new generation where kids are just hooked, and we're slowly losing interpersonal skills, and we're losing the ability to communicate. And I believe that cigarettes are just another way to really cope with the stressors of life. So my recommendation for somebody who is stressful or who is considering smoking or not is really to find a hobby, to find something that you enjoy doing. Read a really good book, or go for a run, or go for a walk,
or come to Tobacco-Free Staten Island.
Yes, there you go. Welcome to Tobacco-Free Staten Island. No, but it's so important. You know, the reality is there are so many kids that are using these products, and they're using these products because they want to fit in. And because it makes them more socially accepted within their own like social circles. So it's important that we do navigate away from this. And, you know, I just want to reiterate, our program is, we are not against tobacco. We are not against smokers. We are against a company that has truly capitalized on the profits and the lives of others.
And I want to say something. You're not the one who's fitting in. The tobacco is the one that's fitting in. You're not the ones that are being celebrated and cared for who you are. It's the tobacco. It really is not you at all. You can smoke millions of all you want, but you can be the best person, and you don't show it yourself. You don't show who you truly are. All you see is a little flash drive in your mouth, or any other shapes or forms this industry makes. They're not going to see the person who you truly are. That's why it's so important for the youth to be more well aware of what goes on in their world other than just buying products from the store. There are also youth that unfortunately have come from terrible backgrounds, and it's true, like there's abuse, there's a lot of bad things that happen to them, and they only have one outlet, that's that. Little did they know that there's people around who care, and we have to make sure that is out to the world, because if it doesn't, they're only going to just be stuck in the cage of nicotine for the rest of their life.
Yeah, so you know what, let's talk about some of the initiatives. So we are a program that really tackles 4 initiatives, point of sale being one of them, which goes back to the flavors. It's how these products are marketed. We're seeing with e-cigarettes, they're very similar. We are very fortunate. We have state elected officials who have truly done so much. One of our state senators has done a tremendous amount when it comes down to this. How much more do we need to go? And where are we now? What would you say?
I don't have to say a lot. It really is. We're really pushing the agenda now. We're really showing the bad stuff besides it compared to what we were like a few years ago when we thought it was just a simple quit nicotine campaign. And now we're more aware, we're more knowledgeable, and that's all that we have really know to do. Sorry about that. But that's all we know, that we can be able to learn more from it. Knowledge truly is power in this case.
Knowledge is power. Yes, it is. So, you know, since we're talking about knowledge and power, let's talk about outdoors and let's talk about the environment.
Excuse me, you have about 10 minutes left, so you have plenty of time.
Perfect.
But I just have to interject one, I guess, a personal comment or question regarding the topic. Disclaimer, I am not part of TFSI. I am not part of this organization. I'm my own person. I'm just the producer of the show. But I've never heard anybody mention anything about the amputations in regard to smoking. If it's okay, I'll mention it unless you guys know something about it.
So I know a little bit. So we have very close relations with this woman, Marie Wilkins, from the CDC commercial. And for those of you that have not seen Tips from Former Smokers, Marie had to amputate quite a few ligaments due to something called Berger's disease. And she was smoking for a really long time. The information then came out. She went to doctors and tried to quit multiple times. And eventually she was able to. But unfortunately, it was at the loss of her ligaments and at the loss to most of her health, unfortunately. So she's currently bound by a wheelchair. And this is all due to smoking.
And I'm an Aquarius, and Aquarians and a lot of other kids, I'm an old kid, they need to know the why. And I'm going to tell people the why. I've not heard the why of it. They say, you know, diabetes, that causes amputations also. But the reason... There are healthy diabetics who don't have amputations, and then there are unhealthy ones. I think, this is only my opinion, is because of the smoking in addition to what the smoking does is, what I learned in biology decades ago, is that your blood runs through every part of your body. And what the smoking does is it takes the oxygen out of your blood. So as your blood is running through your body, and it gets down to the extremities and the toes and everything, if you're smoking, you're actually removing the oxygen from very important blood that, you know, goes through your whole body. So I think, I'm not a doctor, but I'm a person who's done a lot of observation. The thing that some kids need to hear is that That's the reason why smoking can cause amputations. Because if you think about it, if I'm a little kid and I'm listening, I got a cigarette in my mouth, how's that going to cause amputations? It's taking your oxygen from your body.
Yes.
But I just had to say that. Go
No, I appreciate that.
Go ahead.
I think
I want to say something to what she said. She says something really important that it was brought up. She's not a doctor, but she's a person. And if she can figure it out, anyone can. It's not rocket science. It ain't an AP class, thank goodness. It doesn't take much to be educated about the harms and effects of nicotine and these products. Because it can be you who are missing limbs. It can be you who has to suffer through diabetes. It can be anyone in the world. And I'm really glad she mentioned that because it needs to be said. Everyone can know. Anyone can.
Yes. And it's also, no, you're good. And it's also important to note that these physical and internal altercations don't really happen overnight. So it does. It takes time. And for some people, they can smoke for 20 years and not see something until later. And other people can smoke for 10 and unfortunately have lung cancer. So you really don't know. There's so many variables. There's so many factors, both environmental and genetic. But environmental, really, that goes into like tobacco-free outdoors and what we're doing when it comes down to that. So we've taken tremendous strides to really reduce exposure of secondhand smoke. So on that note, we've also done a lot with smoke-free multi-unit housing. So can you just give the audience a little bit of overview on what that is?
Smoke-free multi-unit housing is pretty much promoting the effects of tobacco within apartment buildings as well as other of housing complexes that feature more than one family. And you can think, what pops in your head when one person is smoking and everyone else is around? If you get secondhand smoke, you are darn correct. Yes. Because with multi-unit housing, we are combating the effects of what happens. For example, like children around them, they can suffer the same effects. I remember working on a project for the art exhibit, and I chose multi-unit housing, and I pretty much did a Plinko thing, if you watch The Price is Right, how it affects all different apartments, whether it's an elderly person, it's an infant, it's a regular person. Anyone can suffer, and most of these have stroke, Crohn's disease, cancer, leukemia. They all come from the smoke in the air.
Yeah, so when it comes down to smoking in multi-unit homes, it's important to note that when one person smokes, the entire building is smoking. So it is going through the vents, under the doorways. Smoking and cigarettes is also the number one cause of fires in multi-unit homes. So automatically, red flags, another red flag. It's just dangerous, and it's dangerous in more than one ways. So the federal government has taken great steps when it comes down to really reducing secondhand smoke. So there's something called the HUD policy, which means that people cannot smoke inside their units and 25 feet away from the door. That also includes lobbies. However, that does not include privately funded buildings. So right there's more work to be done. The other issue when it comes down to this policy is it does not include e-cigarettes. So we've talked a lot about e-cigarettes, and it's important to look at these products as really the next generation of cigarettes. So we always say that the next generation, and hopefully the next generation will be tobacco-free, but tobacco-free now needs to also encompass these e-cigarettes. So what measures do you pose that we take to now include these products in an already large and pretty intricate policy?
It's simple. We bring the info to them. We can't just wait for them to look for information because as far as I'm concerned, a child can unfortunately be hacking themselves to death in these houses because of the smoke. We need to make sure this information is out. There are privately owned apartments, as you said, that haven't proposed these plans against it. We need to prove to them how deadly it is. Multi-unit housing is important, especially for those who are who are financially disabled or stuff, and they have this as a sort of shelter.
Yes.
And the idea that it's plagued with the same things they would smell on the outside streets is no better. Therefore, we need to make sure to get the information out to them. We need to show, listen, this is what's going on. You need to be aware. And that's
I think one of the ways we make them aware of is that beautiful art exhibit, which I have not seen yet because it's going to be up June 12th. I just broke in to let you know you have 4 minutes and so many seconds left. So you'll be wrapping up. And just Tell us about the art exhibit. Do you have any art in it? Do your friends have art in it?
Yes, I know. Like I recited before that my art was based on multi-unit housing. If you watched The Price is Right whenever you stood home because you were sick or because you just wanted to take a day off because, daytime television, you would see that they played a Plinko machine which bounces around the whole board falling into one spot. What I did was I depicted an apartment building in which the starting point was someone smoking tobacco. It clinks all through the apartments, causing all these. Smoking, even an asthma attack, too, as I
That's
depicted.
fabulous.
It was quite well organized and illustrated.
And once you keep going down, instead of winning millions of dollars, which believe me, I would love to, there are consequences. Leukemia, stroke, Crohn's disease, and those are just a few. And they all lead towards the inevitability of death, and that's the reason.
This
but I'm not
sounds
the only
like a
one.
great exhibit. I have to interrupt you because we only got 3 minutes and 20 seconds left.
Yes.
And then I have to put on this produce through.
I want to piggyback on this a little bit.
Okay, and I want you to say the date that the art exhibit
Yes,
starts.
I'm going
I
to.
want to make sure everybody knows it's a free art exhibit. You go,
Yes.
and you're not paying admission to this.
Nothing
We're
is
not
being
selling
paid,
anything.
yes.
It's just a free art exhibit. Go for it.
So the art exhibit is called Flavored Tobacco and Vaping Student Art Exhibition. It is on June 12th from 10 to 1 p.m. So this is a free exhibit. There are a whole bunch of students that did participate in this, so I do definitely want to give a shout out to our students in District 75 and the faculty and staff that did help to make this possible. One of the biggest pieces of this art exhibit is that it's so important that we see really through the eyes of our young people what they're seeing at their delis and their convenience stores and what they're seeing in the neighborhoods. And this art exhibit will do just that because the work was truly developed without really any input from adults. It was pretty much, okay, you guys know what these products are. You guys have seen them in the stores. You guys have friends that use them. Tell us what you feel about them. Tell us what you see. And they did all this on their own in canvases, and they glued jewel pods. It's a whole bunch of stuff. Mm-hmm. So it's really awesome. And I'm really proud of it because I think the most important thing is that we do have students who are not directly necessarily involved in our program that are now really just input in their own opinion.
We want to say when the show airs. Books and Music Review Show, which is the show that you're on,
yes.
is airing. Not your episode won't air every Saturday, but we air every Saturday. Whatever different show airs, your show will be air on a Saturday at 12:30 in the daytime.
Great.
Okay, go on, wrap it up.
Great. So, I think it's important, as I said before, tobacco-free Staten Island, our elected officials, our community members, everybody has taken such tremendous strides to really create a healthier environment for everyone to live, grow, and play. As much as we have taken great strides, there's so much more work that we need to do. So we need to consistently engage kids like you, the community, to just get out there and do work, pick up garbage, educate others, and really just pass information along. You mentioned knowledge is contagious. That's what we need to continue to do. We need to continue to provide that knowledge, and then be empowered to do something about it. We can't sit on the sidelines anymore.
Spread your
pretty
mind,
much
not
is
spread your smoke.
Almost ending the show. Gabriel, if you're walking down the block, and we'll say bye for Books and Music Review Show, you're walking down the block and you see a little tiny kid smoking a cigarette. What are you going to say to him if you're going to say anything?
I have to tell him the truth. I'm not going to be rude and smack him out of the face, but I need to show to him, listen kid, you might think that's fun now, but think about your future. Would you like it if you were watching your kids, instead of a baby bottle, having the jewel in your mouth? No. Make sure. Don't start now because it's a plague that will continue for the rest of your life. It might think it's safe, but in reality, it's not. Be aware. They're not out to care for you. They're out to hurt you, and they just want your money. End of story.
So let's breathe clean air on that note. Thank you so much for your time. We are out of here.
Sign out.